It was a dreary day, but I was just finishing one of the most captivating conversations I had ever been a part of for school and maybe even one of the coolest experiences of my life. Sitting across from me was a fascinating young woman I had just spent an hour with as she described her eventful and very personal journey towards a better life from Mexico to Springdale, Arkansas. It is an honor getting to record her story, and I am so excited to share it with you. The story begins with the birth of a baby girl named Elena on December 20th, 1983. She was welcomed into the world by her parents, grandparents, and a few siblings. She grew up in Guanajuato, Mexico, a city of 4 million people, with an innate passion for learning supported by her immediate family. Even though her parents only had attended middle school, they were influential in her pursuit toward her dreams of attending college. When she had difficulty learning to read, her mom, who stayed at home to take care of the house and children, spent extra time with her and her brother every day, working with them and encouraging them to practice. Her mother read bedtime stories to them aloud every night as she modeled how to read and the joy that can be found inside the pages. Her father, on the other hand, played a very different but just as influential role in her literacy experiences. When she was younger, he and her mother would gather the family in one room after lunch to read the one Bible the family owned. While he modeled this literacy practice, most of his influence came from the financial support he provided. In Mexico, Elena's dad had worked in construction, but when she was a young girl, he took her oldest brother with him to the United States to find better work. From then on, he would send her family back money to live on and the finances which would support her high school education. In Mexico, public education is only free from 2nd to 8th grade. Because of this political system's limitation, many intelligent and driven children cannot pursue further education. Elena was lucky to have a father that could send money back so that she could continue the learning she loved so much. Her grandparents were also influential in her literacy learning experiences, even though they only had a middle school education as well. Living just a few houses down, Elena spent a lot of time with them, listening to their stories of what life was like when they were young, or from the books that they had, which were filled with tales and histories of Mexico. Many of Elena's literacy learning experiences are rooted in the value of knowing and celebrating one's history. Whether it was her memories from what she learned and wrote about in school, the books she found in her and her grandparents' home, or the games she played, she always talked about how these resources told the story of her country. In fact, when she was about 11 years old, she would write the legends of her city and her country and turn them into plays that she would have her siblings act out. As she grew older, her love for learning never faded. After graduating high school, she knew she wanted to attend college, but knew that the financial burden on her family would be too much to bear. As she tells her story today, she is extremely grateful for the political figure who sponsored her university education, President Vicente Fox Quesada, who was extremely influential in opening educational opportunities for Mexican children and created many scholarships, one of which was awarded to Elena. After graduating from college and working for a few years as an industrial engineer, Elena wanted to learn and practice her English, so she packed up her things and moved to Springdale, Arkansas, where she was welcomed by her older brother and sister and parents who all live in the area now. Today she has lived here for 2.5 years and has a little baby boy of her own. She spends her time working on her own business in the morning as a distributor of health products that she sells to friends, family, and other consumers that she reaches out to via Facebook, phone calls, and email. Happily employed and attending English classes in the afternoon, Elena isn't sure what's next. Her family has found a life here that they love. Her brother and father are electricians after attending NTI in Springdale, and her mom is able to watch her baby while she works and goes to school. Even though her story is far from over, there is a lot that can be learned from it so far. For one, because of her time in two very different worlds, we can see that there's a distinct relationship between place and the purpose and values of different literacies. For example, in Mexico, her literacy of reading and writing was highly valued and needed to excel as she pursued higher education. Elena spoke of how she had to do homework every night, solving problems and writing papers. She would not have been able to become an industrial engineer without this specific literacy. However, when she moved to the United States and began to work in a new and significantly different industry, she was required to have highly developed technological literacy skills. Her business would fail if she was unable to run her website, post on Facebook, make calls, and write emails. Her and her baby's well-being depend on these skills. Another key literacy that she needed to know, and is definitely worth noting in today's world, is the value of the English language. All over the world, being fully literate and fluent in English is highly valued and can lead to all kinds of economic and political opportunities. We see across countries and work environments that different kinds of literacies are necessary, but that doesn't mean that overall one is more valuable than the other. By understanding this, we can acknowledge merit in all types of literacies that are used in different environments. Here I gave just a few examples of the many found in Elena's story of this interconnected relationship between play place and how literacy is used there. As a future teacher, I find this relationship to be interesting and noteworthy on a personal level. It causes me to question how literacy is generally approached in school and how it is traditionally taught. We tend to think of literacy as just reading and writing, but in fact there are many different kinds of literacies, and all have value within their own context. We have become so focused on excelling in these two skill sets, which I agree are extremely important, but not to the extent that we should neglect others that also have value and are needed in our society. By understanding what literacies are valued in the place that we are teaching in, teachers can use that to incorporate those into their lesson plans and to keep students captivated and praising them for what they are already good at. And by knowing what kinds of literacies are valued in other places, educators can teach students the value and the necessity of having people gifted and knowledgeable across all disciplines and create opportunities for students to share and practice their own literacies. These ideas will look different when applied based on the location of the school and the backgrounds of the students attending that school. For example, if I were Elena's teacher in Mexico, from what I know about Elena's strengths, I would try to incorporate what she loves and is passionate about into whatever subject I'm teaching. Her love of learning history might be able to fuel various types of writing in genres such as articles, essays, and letters to government officials. Thus, Elena is working in an area that she cares about and is interested in, but is still growing in her ability to write effectively, which is what I, as her teacher, want to achieve. Another example might come from the way that we view bilingual education. Growing up in Texas, and with some students I went to school with being native Spanish speakers, I've witnessed this firsthand. I've seen students reprimanded and shamed for speaking Spanish in our school, even though it was the only way to communicate what they need. But in reality, some of the best art, poetry, and literature has been produced when languages and cultures like this come together. Educators shouldn't be afraid of diversity in our backgrounds, skill sets, and literacies, but instead embrace it.